Hi, and welcome to Live Your Love. I'm Alicia Doss, and this is
Sonia Choquette.
So blessed you have my soul sister with us today, but even more important is that Sonia is an absolute treasure of spiritual intuition and enlightenment. She really doesn't need an introduction, but I'll tell you a little bit about her. But we are just delighted to have you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. I'm very happy to be here.
Oh, so happy to have you. So, beloveds, as mentioned, I'm Alicia Doss, spiritual seminar leader, speaker, and author, assisting you to live from the better angels of your nature. And Sonia Choquette is a renowned spiritual teacher, intuitive guide, and best-selling author. She is the most highly regarded expert in the field of intuition, has been a world-renowned intuitive guide and spiritual teacher for 40 years. Clearly you started when you were a toddler. I was just telling her she has perfect skin. So I actually think it's closer to 50, isn't it?
It's probably 50 now. That's a little bit, yeah, it's 50.
I mean, that's so gorgeous because you started when you were a
50,
child, really.
I started when my first class was when I was 12 years old.
Amazing,
Yep.
Amazing. So this is a treasure we have today. She's also, by the way, author of 27 New York Times or international bestsellers.
Like to write.
Incredible, prolific. Her books have been published in 37 languages and 40 countries and have been read by over 1 million people. Sonia's work has been featured on Hay House Radio, Oprah Radio, ABC, Fox, Shape, Gaiam, and Wall Street Journal Live. Her teachings have attracted the love and admiration of nearly 500,000 social media followers and over 1 million global students. Sonia's mission is to help others feel whole by using all of their senses to create a life that is intuitively guided, empowered, authentic, and meaningful. Today, she's going to teach us how to read life accurately, commensurate with her brand new book, Read Life Accurately. Recognize and respond to what's really happening.
That's right.
I love that title. So can we call on the light?
I'd love to.
Okay. And beloved Lord God, just now we open into the light of the Holy Spirit. So beloved listeners, if you're driving a car, please keep your eyes open. Otherwise, just close your eyelids and open your heart and open your inner senses. And we just ask that anything that could impede our awareness of the light, any negativity, karma, imbalances, stress, just let it all go. We ask that it be taken and transmuted perfectly. And Lord, we are so open to miracles as we open into the light of the Holy Spirit, connecting to the Mother God, to the divine feminine, to the absolute truth of the love that we are. We actually open ever more than we ever have, dropping all reference points that love might be, all of our awareness, connecting heart to each other, all those listening, all those who will hear the archives, connecting heart to all those on our planet, bringing us into oneness. And most of all, dwelling within the heart of love itself. May this conversation add to that love in every way for the highest good, and so be it. Amen.
Amen.
So many questions, but just let's start there. Tell us about how is this book different than the 27 other or 26 other books? I remember you saying at the beginning of the book that this is after COVID, people are more ready.
Before COVID, our world was relatively predictable. We didn't have the requirement to pay that much attention. What was yesterday, we can pretty much assume will be today unless it's some unusual disruption. So people could check out and did. They checked out on their technology. They checked out in their distractions, their consumptions. They checked out in just their overwork if you're in the Western world. So nobody was either here nor there. And when COVID came, there was a big plug pulled on that. All of a sudden, we were thrown into an utterly unpredictable globally shared life experience of we are all feeling equally threatened. We are in an uncharted waters, and we don't have any leaders or authority figures to navigate us through this with any reliability. So it jump-started what I have been teaching all along, but was easily dismissed before that, which is we have inner senses that can navigate where the outer senses fail. Your outer senses can show me what you look like, where you live, what you sound like, even what you feel like, but they can't tell me what you feel internally. They can't tell me what your priorities are. They can't tell me where your values are, what your intentions are, but your inner senses can. And so by default and necessity, they started coming online spontaneously. But here's the problem. If you've been raised to ignore these inner senses and they start coming online, you're going to end up in a battle. You're going to, and especially if you've been indoctrinated to consider these inner senses not real. One of the things I grew up with and have faced for 50 years is I live in the real world. In other words, the third dimension. And I ignore the fourth and the fifth dimension, or what I call the subtle realms. But now that these sensors are coming online, it's not enough. We have to learn to integrate and have them become friends. Because what people were experiencing is either they'll go with the inner senses, woo-woo, or we'll go with the outer senses, practical, logical, realist, and both are inadequate to navigate you in life. So Read Life Accurately is actually working on the assumption that I'm not going to convince you. I've written 37 books that convince you that inner senses are real. I'm going to teach you how to use these, how to bring these senses together, work as partners, integrate so you are using your entire sensory awareness, and how to address and eliminate the filters that would keep that from being available to you. So it empowers you to both visually and sensually read life, but also energetically read life. When then you get the big picture. That informs you on how to make better decisions.
Can you help us learn to trust? Because that voice is always there, but it's a still small voice. And then we have these voices of conditioning and outer voices that are loud and booming and distracting and cunning. How do you discern that highest voice amidst all the cacophony of the other voices?
I believe that the first thing you need to do is acknowledge and validate that your inner voice, and we're limited by language. It's not necessarily a voice. It is an inner impulse, an awareness, a vibrational knowing that we give a voice to. Okay, so that's the first thing, is that we recognize that this is a legitimate part of me. And for those listeners who have been really hyper conditioned in left brain logic and science and all that, current science acknowledges that our guts, our hearts, our throats, the back of our head, the crown, and the skin do respond energetically. They are receiving energy, which gives you information. So bring your logic on board instead of fight it. It's like, this is new information, but what I'm sensing or feeling is legitimate. Okay, that said, we do have our emotional voice. We do have our judgmental bias voice. And so each of those voices has a different effect on you. And we use, again, I'll say the voice, the feeling, the vibe that you are experiencing or is coming to your consciousness leaves you quiet, leaves your brain quiet, leaves your body a bit relaxed. That is the guidance that is coming from the direct energetic experience. If the voice in your head is loud, argumentative, bouncing around, insecure, really opinionated, that is an ego or an emotional voice. So pay attention to how it's affecting you. Does this voice feel like it's coming from a place of energetic information, or is it your ego trying to maintain control? You know what? You can tell.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell. Your ego voice is, no, but it's not your voice or the confusing of the voice that is the problem. The problem is to listen to that inner guidance. You have to really assume full responsibility for yourself. And that's the problem. That's the scary part. What, that step into true sovereignty of your life feels for a lot of people like a very big leap and a bit of a scary one.
And yet it's where we're going. It used to be that we would look to the priests and the gurus and the leaders, and the challenging news of not having as much faith in all those is it's challenging. We want those very soul-led leaders. The good news about it is it takes us right within our own sovereign selves to go directly to spirit.
Well, I think that reflects the evolution of the planet. There was a time and a place where we wanted these father figures, whether they were spiritual father figures, corporate father figures. You had a job, you worked forever, you got to retire. Right. Your father, my father, our parents had that guarantee. That was the paradigm. That we go to the church, we follow the rules, we're going to be okay, and
we'll get to heaven.
And it worked. But it started before COVID, but COVID really sealed the deal. Everything collapsed.
Yes.
And there were no father figures who had the authority or the gravitas or the ability to say, I'll take care of you. They're all scrambling to take care of themselves. So we were thrust back into self-reliance and self-responsibility. And some people post-COVID have drifted back to external authority figures. They're just not ready to assume that degree of personal responsibility, and that's fine. If you are one of those people, intuition isn't going to play a big role in your life. You have surrendered that inner direction and delegated to an outer authority. But I believe in the first commandment, which is not to have false gods.
Yes.
So outer authorities are not particularly necessarily attuned to what you personally need. And so people are starting, it's like popcorn. All of a sudden, because I've been out in the field here for a long time, and what I was talking about was like, it was almost like when you're out in the cornfield and all of a sudden the suburbs start coming in, and the next thing you know, the cornfield is now the new main city. I feel like what I've been teaching is no longer out in the cornfield.
Right.
Everybody is kind of having these spontaneous experiences of intuition. So my book, Read Life, is not to convince you that they're legitimate. The goal of this book is we're going to work on the assumption that this is a natural part of you that you need.
Yes.
But we have to learn how to navigate and discern these inner senses and how they work. And also, they're not enough. We have to sharpen our outer senses, which have also gotten very dulled. We need to pay attention and listen and taste our food and have you ever run around the house going, where are my keys? And they're in your hand.
Yes.
We have to come out of the numb state.
Yes.
That is a consequence of being in your head.
Yes.
Your head cannot feel.
Right.
So we've lost touch with the sensuality of life and consequently with intimacy and connection with one another. So we need this whole constellation of senses to bring us back into relationship with ourselves, one another, and the planet. And Read Life teaches you that that's a process. But you're hardwired to do this naturally, so it's not a complicated process.
Right. And it's a natural process. And it really sounds like what it's doing, it's really coming quite mindfully into the present moment.
And understanding that you have more available guidance than you've been taught. That you don't need to be suspicious of your your feelings and your gut feelings and what your heart says and dismiss it because someone told you to do that. You now begin to recognize, oh, wait a minute, that is a legitimate way for me to know. Even, and I love this, even science says it now, but that's my new father figure.
Right.
Science says, quantum physics says that the heart knows, the gut is a conscious organ, the heart is a conscious organ, the skin is a conscious organ. So, but here's an interesting story. And this is really an example of what I'm teaching. I saw this episode on YouTube once where a man lost his sight. And he was born with some corneal abrasions, or I'm not sure what. But medical doctors were able to restore his vision. But that did not mean he could see, because his brain did not know how to see. And it took a year of training his brain to work with his actual vision to be able to understand and integrate what he's seeing. Now, I feel I'm doing the same thing with your inner senses. They're happening, but we have to teach your brain to take this in and to give it validation and to listen to it and to learn to work with it instead of fight it. And that's what, but it's a very quick process. It doesn't take a year. It actually takes 3 weeks. 3 weeks of actually paying attention to your inner senses and not fighting them. But nor do we bypass our outer senses. It's like, okay, where are you? What do you see right in front of you? What are you hearing? What are you tasting? What are you smelling? Where are you going? What is important to you? So it's really a choreography of all of your senses. Give you accurate information.
That's really beautiful. And the thing that I love is, in a way, it's spiritualizing the physical more. It's not saying, there's heaven and earth, then you either go up or you're or you're corporal.
That is the patriarchal version of spirituality. The evolution of our planet is showing that everything's spirit. The earth, your body, the planet, it's all spirit. It's all divine creation. And we are here to learn how to be creators with our consciousness. And our senses are the tools of consciousness. In that they're not exclusive, also our emotions are tools of consciousness that we learn to use to create as the divine beings that we are. We are creators, but it's like Harry Potter in the Harry Potter's school. You had to learn to use your, to manifest and use and master your magic. So that's kind of what Read Life is about, is how to use and master all of your senses to create the life you really want.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I always come online when you have Harry Potter references.
Well, think about it. Just what is your, like, okay, let's talk about, well, how do we do this? Okay, it sounds all well and good, but how are we going to read life accurately? Because we know we can, and we know it's natural because of our language. If someone says, man, he didn't read the room at all, pretty much everybody's going to understand what you're saying. Or I so misread that situation. This language we accept, and I've taught all over the world. It translates. And whether I'm in China or whether I'm in Finland or whether I'm in Italy, people understand what I'm saying. So that reveals that there is an intrinsic connection to our ability to get information beyond our senses. So we start there. And it begins with, well, what do you want? What are you looking for? Because we will be selective in our awareness. If I'm lonely and want you to fill that void and you have the visual, I'm going to maybe misread or choose not to read all the red flags that tell me you're really not the person. I'm going to try to make the shoe fit, make the situation work. And then you force liaisons or connections or or you force yourself into a job. I really need a job. So you go you apply for a job, but everything about it just is not resonating, but you're overwriting the information because your intention is, I just want any job. I'm not being discerning.
Right.
So I really break it down to say you have to know what you want. It starts with you, and it starts with knowing what are your goals, what are your values, what are your priorities, what are your intentions for now. Let's not be too universal about this. We'll get overwhelmed. For today, let's start it even more immediate. And then you start gathering information. What did my eyes show me? What do my ears? You start from the outside and work inward. Go to your 5 senses first, and then go, what does my gut say? That is the energy that is protective. It scans, your gut scans to protect you. What does my heart say? That's the inner sense it scans to connect you. So one is to protect you, one is to connect you. What does my throat say? That's the energy that's telling you, where you can hear not what's said, but what's intended in your own voice and in others. So what am I energetically hearing, vibrationally, energetically? Then you put that all together and look for congruency.
Beautiful, beautiful. And so when you're reading other people, which is what
we do all the time.
We do. And I love that you're saying, like, sometimes we override that. And in my parlance, I would say, because I want what I perceive that they'll give me, or I think I need what,
Or if you're spiritually inclined, you read their potential. You read what is possible, but you are ignoring what they're actually choosing and how they're actually vibrating.
No idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. And this is what happens to a lot of empaths and spiritual
it's
people.
true.
It's like, that was my soulmate that
Yes.
turned into a monster. It's like, well, actually you were reading their potential, but you were ignoring the very obvious broadcast red flags that is not what they're prioritizing or pursuing. Right. That's not what they're choosing. And so you decided to not read the signals. But I ask people all the time, were you really surprised?
Yeah, because back there,
because you actually your senses work. It's not about do your senses work, it's are you going to pay attention or not.
Right. So what would you suggest? Now, I don't mean to generalize, but I think that women are more likely to fall in love with someone's potential, their vision of who they think they are or will be or could be, even to the even to the detriment of really seeing what's present and noticing.
That's a cultural influence, because women, and a biological one, in that women are the nurturers of the human race. We are the mothers, we are the nurturers, we are the caretakers. Now then we get into culturally, we are expected to be the nurturers, the caretakers, the givers, the ones that hold the space. So we will naturally go into, what can I nurture in you? What can I caretake in you? What can I cheer you on? But we're not taught necessarily to be discerning. And we're actually discouraged to be self-nurturing, self-caretaking. That is considered, for a woman, selfish. Now that's changing rapidly, thank goodness.
Yes.
Because women abandoning their own self-care will have a secret agenda with others. If I nurture you, you owe me.
Right. But it's never said out loud.
No, it's implied.
Yes.
It's relationships based on assumptions. And all of a sudden you can feel the tug and pull. And this is where you feel betrayed and you feel abandoned and misled, because the assumption that you're operating on and that you were raised with for many people is, you be a good girl, you be the nurturer, you show up, you caretake, you cultivate the potential in another, and it'll grow and they'll take care of you.
Right.
Now that's all imploded.
Yes.
It's kind of an interesting place on the planet now. In a way, it's all each man for himself. but in a good way.
Mhm.
It's causing each of us to bring all of our own self-love and our own discernment and awareness and self-honesty online. So everybody's kind of thrown back into their own experience and invited to look at that.
Yeah.
Am I operating in an aware, conscious, aligned state, or am I being selective? Am I being not discerning? Am I being sentimental? Am I being codependent? It's a tough experience for a lot of people right now, but it's a tough love experience. We are being encouraged by the circumstances vibrationally on this planet to grow into our power, to bring all our senses online because they are essential to our power, and to learn that we are powerful and we can create and not depend on someone else to fill a void. So it's a free for all in many ways, but people are getting it.
Yes, beautiful. And it also is I think behooves us to recognize that it's a dance and it's a moment by moment discernment of I'm going to go and connect directly to spirit to determine the highest action, the highest state right now. And we are moving from the Piscean age, or the age of me, into the Aquarian age, the age of we. Some said it happened about a week ago.
It did. It happened at the end of November.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it really is a dance between like being sovereign within ourselves and really spirit fulfilling, soul fulfilling, and acting in accord with the highest good, not just what's going to work for me, not just what's going to make me feel good or mine.
Well, I think that we need to recognize that we are the new age doesn't mean the light turns on and all of a sudden it's a big kumbaya group hug. The last time we changed an age, it took 100 years for people to reorient their priorities and to learn new things and go from the dark ages to the Renaissance. Wasn't an overnight process. What we need to learn about is I have to be responsible for but my I affects us. So we are not islands. What I do affects everything. And what we're learning is that nobody is getting to sit out in the bleachers. Everybody's affecting everything.
Yeah.
And so the collective is only going to improve with individuals who begin to take responsibility. And let's turn that word around. Recognize our ability to respond to energy in a creative, authentic, empowered way. When we begin to learn, we can, with being present and aware and informed, we can create. And part of that is that we are connected to one another, but also to the subtle realms and to the higher powers and to the earth. We're connected to everything. The real thing that I think, the spiritual bypass is, I'll just pray and God will handle it. Well, that's like getting in a car that's full of gas, ignition, and GPS working like your car. You just talk to it and they'll tell you where to go, but you have to talk to it.
Right.
It's not going to just go. It's not going to read your mind. It's not going to do it. It's a dynamic interaction. You have to decide, where am I going? You have to first choose, and then you can be supported. So this is where your conscious mind is not the enemy of your spirit. Your ego is not the enemy of your spirit. Your ego just has to recognize we're a team.
Yeah.
Where are we going? What are we doing today? And then all your senses turn on, all your angels and guides come in, and they say, okay, well, help. If you're truly committed to going there, but if you're incongruent, if you say, I'm going to go there, but not really, or maybe I'll go, but I'm not really sure I'll show up, and your own energies are crisscrossed, the whole universe is just going to sit, and your senses are going to sit dormant.
Yes.
They're not going to give you any direction. But the minute you're committed and clear on where you're going, it's like a Christmas tree lights up. Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
your senses will guide you, your guides will guide you, your angels will, everything will support that once you're all in.
Beautiful. Absolutely. It's reminiscent of that beautiful Goethe quote. I don't even know if it's Goethe. I think it was somebody.
It is Goethe.
Is it? It is
Mhm.
Goethe. Okay. That once you commit, all the universe
Will show
conspires
you
to support that.
you. Right.
And the thing that I love about this is not only is it an evolution of I'm sovereign, I'm directly connected. I don't need a middleman. In fact, I'm not even allowed a middleman and man.
But I am able to be supported.
But I'm able to be supported, exactly. And it's also rather than looking for God, I'm God looking. It's like we're co-creators.
Right.
Now this is God within us, animated into this reflective world. There's not a separation.
No, actually, I think all your senses and all the energy pours in activates your God self. So you start living as your God self instead of your separate ego self.
Yes.
And your God self is embodied in this incredible machine that is here, the spacesuit, to serve you, and all these senses and all these forms of information to guide you.
You have been at this 50 years professionally since you were 12?
Yep.
12 years old. What about when we go, oh, it's too late. I'm too old to start now. I'm too old to change. I'm too old to write the book, teach the course, change the career, find the mate. It's too late for me because, how do you marry this? It's never too late with our society seeming worship of youth culture.
Well, imagine this. I'm saying to you, look, you have the power to create, but you can't create with only part of your senses. You have more, and it's like turning a light on in a dark room. And I know where the switch is, and it's going to turn the light on and show you all that's available to create. And you say to me, well, it's too late. I'm going to just sit here in the dark. It's like, well, the switch is just there. It is wired. It is ready to go. You don't have to wire the switches. You just have to turn it on. And you say, well, I'm just going to sit here in the dark. Okay, how's that working out for you? It's simply a matter of you being curious and creative enough to, at least I always say, just turn the light on. Just turn the light on in terms of how you see yourself, how you see life, because in the dark, you don't see your options. So that voice that you're giving me that it's too late is the voice in the dark. What would your voice be if you were you were in a room that had light and it showed you where your tools are, where your companions are, where the openings are, where the window is? Would you still feel that way? So let's just do it one step at a time. Just turn on the light. Then decide.
Beautiful.
That's how I would say it. That's what I would say do.
Yeah. Beautiful. And really, then all of these considerations are really just smoke screens and distractions from following that, I could say, God-given voice, spirit-led voice, soulful, universal voice that is saying, go do this thing that you're afraid of, jump and the net will appear, go serve in a greater way, even if you don't know how to, start before you're ready, etc. So it's really about following that higher knowing, which comes from all of your inner and outer senses. So you're in congruence with what is.
I think it will be helpful to people to not set up your objective so high. Follow your inner voice. You can fulfill your purpose and serve the divine and connect. That's a big leap. How about follow your inner voice? You can find a parking space. Let's start there. And let's follow your voice so you can get to the restaurant that actually has a seat for you tonight. Okay, that's another win. Let's follow your inner voice so you can choose. You have Friday night, you have enough money for a movie. Choose the movie that you want to go to. It's another win. Follow your inner voice to connect with people today that will be pleasant. So you build and build and build and build. So at no point is failure an ominous threat. It's more of a game. It's more of what did my inner voice say today that made my life a little more fun, a little easier, helped me feel a little more connected, not so isolated, a little win. My inner voice said, turn your head. I got a parking space. Oh my God. Heart opens, lights come on. You believe in yourself. My inner voice said, this has good coffee. Go to this coffee shop. You get the coffee. Win. It is good coffee. Open heart, lights go on. You actually say to the person who's selling you the coffee, love this coffee. Connect. I don't feel so alone. It's starting to work in baby steps. So if you say, follow your inner voice, because it's going to lead to your purpose and it's going to lead to your soulmate and it's going to lead to your abundance. What if it doesn't? So that's too much of a risk. Now, it will, but it's not from here to there. It's from here to the parking lot, to the good coffee, to the person you meet, to the conversation, to then come meet my sister, then the marriage, and And I think that if you set it up like that, it happens and proliferates very quickly. But if you set it up to jump to the moon, it's too threatening.
Yeah, I absolutely hear you. I think I was more speaking to people who've been doing it forever, but also
I've even watched people that are very spiritual who will say to me, very conscious, very schooled, very spiritual, but when it comes down to my inner voice says, you know what I hear more often than not? How can I be sure? And that's fear, that I'll be disappointed. Yeah. And the answer is you can't be sure. So just put your toes in the water a little bit. Yeah. Even for the most educated, spiritually conscious, well-read person, there is a sense of fear that somehow I won't do it. I won't succeed. Not that it can't succeed, but maybe I won't succeed. So just give yourself baby steps instead of have to bungee jump up the mountain. And it happens more quickly that you begin to believe in yourself. You can believe in yourself with baby steps in 7 days.
Really?
You will have that much quick response and that many back-to-back experiences that in 7 days of like, okay, for the next 7 days, I'm just going to ask my inner guidance and pay attention. You can't say find the parking spot with your eyes closed.
Right.
Okay. Look.
Yes.
They're working together. Listen. Notice if you're talking to someone and when something in their voice doesn't ring true, pay attention. Yeah. There's an incongruency. You just say, okay, for 7 days, I'm going to acknowledge what all my senses are saying, but I'm going to use them all. You're going to have the best week of your life. You're going to have so many synchronicities, surprises, connections, spontaneous, uplifting experiences. You will believe in God. You will believe there is a force bigger than my ego helping me because you will experience it really fast.
Yeah, beautiful. So speaking of that, of God, tell us a little bit more about your spiritual path, your connection, any penultimate experience that really opened your heart to the numinous, to spirit.
I grew up with a mom who was a prisoner of war in World War II. She lost her family, was in a German war camp at 12, lost her hearing. She had just lost everything except, and they put her on a train to send her to a death camp. And she was completely sitting there.
What country was this?
In Germany.
Oh my goodness.
She's Romanian. So through an evacuation, it was a chaos. So she was on a train with all the prisoners, and everybody was just saying, we're going to die, we're going to die, we're going to die. And her inner voice said, well, not you, just pay attention.
Wow.
So she said, I had a choice. Because
she was 12.
She was 12. So she had a choice. She said, I had a choice because this was definitely the end of the road. But an inner voice said, or not. So she said it was pure survival. I reached to that inner voice. So in following that inner voice, on this train, the guard looked away for a minute. There was Pat. Her spirit said, jump. She jumped off.
Wow.
And she said, at that moment, it was a conscious decision that if I'm going, I'll go because I chose to.
Yes, right. Beautiful.
And she said, I landed in a field. I survived. I hung out there for a while.
Wait, was the train moving when
Yeah,
she
it was
jumped?
taking them all to the death camp. Wow. She jumped into a field, and she said, I stayed there. It was winter.
Uh-huh.
And after a while, she found the courage to go into a barn. And then a German woman found her in the barn, had mercy on her. She's a kid.
Yeah.
So took her in, and she had lost her own daughter in the war. So she kind of adopted my mom, even though she wasn't German, she was Romanian, but she got scared. So she turned my mom into the German authorities, but the German authorities, she's a kid.
Yeah.
They put her in the kitchen to help the cook of the headquarters where the Nazi leaders were. So she said, I got the best gig of all. I was in a warm kitchen. I slept on the floor. I would get a piece of food here and there, and I survived. You know, I had a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
She got very sick. She lost her hearing. So she had to rely on other senses to survive. So she said, I started listening to energy. And then the war ended. This was at the end of the war. So then the next thing you know, American soldiers came. They liberated the town. But she said everybody was on the same playing field. Nobody had anything. Whether you were a local or a soldier or an American soldier or the prisoner of war, people were really, there was nothing. So we were all in the same situation. We had to pay attention and find our way to survive.
Wow.
So she used all her senses. And when she was 14 and a half, she saw an American soldier who she said, my spirit said he was going to be my husband. And everyone laughed at her. She lived in a barn with like 14 other people and scrounged for food and whatever. But one day she was getting some wood to sell to the restaurant that kind of was operating. And he came driving by in his little army Jeep and splattered her with mud. So she took her wood and clunked him in the head. And that man is my father. So by 15, she had met my father, and they got married.
Wow.
So she came to America. She had stopped being educated at 12. She had lost her hearing, but she had turned on all her senses. So I was raised with a mother who taught us to use your senses and pay attention because they will save your life. So I don't have an experience that's different.
Wow.
And that's how God talks through you. And she called it my spirit. She said, listen to your spirit. It talks through everything, through energy, through your heart, through your body, through energy, through your angels. Just listen and it will save your life. That's the only thing to listen to. Don't listen to authorities. We were never taught to listen to authorities. That was not part of my culture. My culture was to listen to your spirit and pay attention. And so by the time I was 12, I was pretty good at it and started realizing if you don't, it's like being really handicapped. It's like being really disabled. If you're not listening to your spirit, it's like being in the world, walking in traffic at midnight the wrong way in the dark. You are really setting yourself up to get hurt.
Right. Absolutely. Or for a return visit again and again and again until you pay.
That's where my devotion and my determination to teach people is like, I got to help these people turn on the light.
Right.
Save yourself.
Realize what's true.
And so what really frustrated me was how can you navigate comfortably, safely, or at ease without listening to all your God-given senses? How can you function in any way and be peaceful? So that's when I started doing intuitive readings, but I thought this is still depending on me. I have to teach you.
Right.
And so that's where I got the motivation.
To teach so that people could...
Say the difference between give people fish or a fishing pole.
Right.
So I still guide people, but my goal is always as a teacher to turn on your senses and pay attention and listen that you are in a very populated universe. And the subtle realms are just as populated as the physical third dimension, and you have a lot of help.
Yes. And so speaking of help, so how do you connect to, of course, my book, Your Angelic Ancestry? It's about angels. How do you connect to angels? and guides?
Well, it's an interesting thing. I've never been disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, in my experience, there's much a part of my reality as you sitting right here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm aware of that. It's like a person who's a musician who's learned to hear notes versus someone who's tone deaf.
Mm.
I sense frequencies all the time, and I communicate with them as comfortably as I communicate with you. And I also sense dissonance. If something is not harmonious and congruent and doesn't resonate in a congruent way, then I know something's off. Don't listen to that. Something's off. I don't care how you present. If it's off, it's off.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't question it. I never say, it doesn't cross my mind to say, how can I be sure? It's off. It's
Right.
it's like questioning what you see.
Mm-hmm.
There it is. It's off. It's vibrationally either harmonious or incongruent.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, to me, and it's let's see, what's that called? Unconscious acumen,
Mm-hmm.
where it's a part of you.
Right.
And do you discover more about your own gifts by breaking it down to teach others to manifest that for themselves?
What I discovered is if you can break it down and make it simple and take people step by step, it will spontaneously start turning on naturally. I don't need to change your entire understanding of life. I just need to wire a few things so you have your own experiences and they become your teacher. They become your guide. So
Yeah.
I've become a mechanic to connect people back to the inner direction and sharpen their outer filters and clear them so that they are well informed. And I feel like in a way I'm a spiritual chiropractor. It's like once I put you back in alignment, it works.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to believe me. Your own experience becomes your evidence very quickly.
Yeah, beautiful. And when you go into a place and it feels a little off, or you have an interaction and it feels a little off, it's activated karma or whatever, how do you clear your energetic field? How do you clear your consciousness so that you can adjust yourself back into full alignment?
Well, that's a good question. And in fact, the whole first part of Read Life Accurately is how to clear.
Mm-hmm.
So you can read life accurately, how to clear your biases, how to clear your judgments, how to clear your body. If you're inebriated, you're not going to be reading much of anything very accurately. So the first thing I'll do is if something's off, I will go inward and I will acknowledge it and I'll start scanning. Is it me? Am I off? Am I not clear about what I want in this situation? Do I have an agenda? Do I feel, am I not being truthful? So I always start with me because it's my consciousness that is experiencing the incongruency. And you have to be very honest. I've learned that whether you're honest or not, life will make you honest. So you might as well cooperate.
Absolutely.
So you start with honesty. And so I'll check. Next, and then I'll start scanning like ripples in a lake. Is it my environment? Is that off? Is there something incongruent here that doesn't feel supportive to my well-being? Then I'll go to people. I'll start scanning people. First, my close personal intimates or wherever, and then I'll just scan the nature of the people. Is their energy incongruent with me? And I don't look for a blame or who's right or wrong. It's just not a match. So I will not engage. I will so spontaneously remove myself that my body will literally walk away.
I have seen that.
You've seen that, right? That's how integrated my senses are.
Yeah.
And they never go to my head. They never go to my intellect that starts to argue with it. It's just detective work. And I just follow the frequencies that are most harmonious. And you can trust that. And if I am in a frequency where I can't disengage, then I will ask myself, okay, what is the what is the benefit here? There's clearly something here that I either need to experience or learn from or study.
Yeah.
Just observe and study. And so I then go into observation and curiosity mode. It's, again, a habit.
Yes.
It's my natural response. And if I get really irritated or agitated, that's danger. And I just will then say, I gotta go. I gotta remove myself. If my agitation goes, because, we are empathic creatures, and I just might be picking up on your bad day.
Right.
And all of a sudden, because I'm tired or I'm not well grounded or I don't really have my own priorities haven't been established today, I'm just all of a sudden channeling you.
Yeah.
And so my teacher, one of my beautiful teachers, said one of my first lessons was mind your own business. And that said, what is your business? First, identify your business and then mind it. So I will remove myself from whatever I'm in and go back to, well, what is my business? Yeah. What the heck am I doing? If I've lost my way, I'm not clear about what I'm doing. So I have learned to be very organized about this. So a lot of people think intuition is random and inner guidance is random. And in truth, it's actually not. Our mind is all over the map. If we can calm our mind, it's very clear. Life, the energy is pretty consistent. Our energies run in patterns. The planet runs in patterns. But if we're in a ping pong game in our head, it looks like everything's chaotic. We experience it as chaotic, but it's really our own thoughts that are chaotic.
Absolutely. Where our spirit is always that serene stream that's right there. So my last question before we move into meditation, and then we tell folks more about Read Life Accurately and how to participate with you more. Talk to us about love. We were sharing a little bit before we began about how you're, my parlance, in a period of harvesting more love in your life than perhaps you've experienced. I don't know about ever, but in a while. Talk to us about love. How do we cultivate love? How do we cultivate more inner love that is then reflected outwardly? How do we dwell in the presence of love? Talk to us about love.
Well, the first part of Read Life Accurately is what prevents you from reading life. But then we go into, okay, well, let's get to it. Step 1, read yourself accurately. And a lot of us, and I had to learn this, raised in Catholic school, in a big family, culturally influenced by my environment, loving myself was really frowned upon. You were supposed to love others. And if you loved yourself, you were being selfish.
Was this a Catholic?
This very Catholic. This is very Catholic.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Sacrifice, the more you suffered, the more brownie points you got. If I'm suffering, I'm good.
Yeah.
If I'm the first one to say, I want some ice cream, you're selfish. So I had to learn to undo that because that's really the root of a lot of codependency. Make everyone happy and then you'll be loved. So I had to undo that. I had to go through a period of even if you know all the spiritual wisdom in the world and your senses are still working for you beautifully, you still have soul growth to address. So I had to learn to step away from where I abandoned myself because I was taught to, and really ended up in a divorce and living alone in Paris, and had to learn to love myself. It was an interesting guidance. My guides told me.
How long ago was that you moved?
10 years ago.
Okay.
10 years ago, I moved in January 2015.
Okay.
So we're a month away from January 12th, 2015 is when I moved to Paris. Didn't know anybody. My daughter went with me. We moved together, but very shortly after I got there, she hightailed it to London because she met someone. So I just had to sit with and as the middle child of 7, married to a man who's the oldest of 9, named after my mother, I had never had, and being very intuitive, I had no identity other than I was a we. I was part of we. So I had to
Mhm.
learn to be I.
Mm.
It took a while. It took many years.
And by the way, plug for Waking Up in Paris. I have to read tons of books because of this beautiful podcast. I think that's the first book I read for pleasure. I mean, all the books are pleasurable because I get to interview gorgeous people with amazing consciousness. They're all pleasurable, but like just for fun, and I loved it. I
Thank
related to
you.
so much of it. And Waking Up in Paris
That
is really
was the
beautiful.
book on how I learned to love myself.
Yeah.
That's what that was about.
Do you think you had to go to 3,000 miles away from your
It
Chicago?
served me because my home was a haunted house.
What?
And in terms of, I was haunted by my past. My friends all knew me a certain way. I got a divorce. Then I had that whole projection on me and identity. And I just wanted to be where no one knew me.
That's tough when you've written 27 best-selling books.
I wanted to be, but I also had a deep soul connection to France. And I just knew that is where I would be very supported in learning to love myself.
Did you just conveniently already speak French? Was that just?
I did speak French. I went to school. I studied in France in my 20s, and I've always spoken French. And I just know my soul's from France, south of France.
You seem.
I am from the
courageous.
tradition of Mary Magdalene. I always knew that. So France was the place. And it was the source of divine feminine. I just had to go there, and I had to learn to love myself there. And it was tough love. I wasn't getting
tough love from you or France or both.
France is not the French
Especially
culture.
Paris.
It's not touchy feely and warm hugs.
I know.
It's tough, but
despite the air kisses, they're air kisses.
Yes,
truthful.
Yeah. It is truthful.
Yeah.
So I had to really meet all the places in me where I was not being truthful and I was not being self-loving because I was hoping being such a good girl, people would love me, and they didn't. They just didn't care. I had to find that source within. So it was brilliant. Not easy. But I've never been one to look for easy. If anything, I could look for a little more easy.
Right.
My next book, the next book is going to be about I am floating on an airbed in a beautiful pool, drinking a pina colada, maybe, because easy has not been my motivator. And that's my new lesson, is that I don't want to learn the hard way anymore. But I do feel like step one is recognize it's a lesson we all need to learn. And we're not going to get past it. So cooperate. Don't fight it. There's no reward. And if you don't believe me, review your life. Has there ever been a reward to ignore or harm or not love yourself? Has there ever been a reward that has lasted for even 10 minutes? So the whole planet's in this right now. We're all in various stages of coming to this realization that what's wrong with the planet is that the self we need to love is the spirit, not the ego, not the body, the spirit, the divine force in us. We need to fall in love with that beautiful self, and then trust that self in this body can lead you very beautifully to create a wonderful life. It is a source you can rely on.
Beautiful. Well, on that gorgeous note, we're going to do a brief meditation. I have the unenviable task of trying to lead us in an experience of that, but fortunately I'm not doing it. That's our spirit.
Beautiful job.
And then I'm going to ask for Sonia's closing thoughts, and we're going to tell you how to participate more with her. So lots of fun things ahead. So let's just, if you're driving, please keep your eyes open. If not, just please gently close your eyelids and really open your heart and be aware of your heart as your heart chakra, your physical heart, and your spiritual heart, which surrounds your body and then radiates out in ever-widening ripples of love, all the way into and as the ocean of love itself. And just taking a deep breath and breathe in all the love of the universe, And as you exhale, let go of anything less than love, any thoughts, feelings, any concerns. It's not who you are. Breathe in another breath. Inhale light. As you inhale light, just let that light amplify and go in and heal any part of you that's in need of light. As you exhale anything less than light. One last breath, breathe in love and light, exhale, and that love and light amplifies all through you, connecting you to each one present on this call. As there is no time and space, we're all in this together now in this moment. And now just gently receive that breath and connecting into the Mary Magdalene energy, the divine feminine. Just open and receive, and open even more now, opening every bit of your senses, inner and outer, being receptive as one with the Mother God, being filled by love, by life itself, entering into the ecstasy of existence. Being aware now of the oneness with the Father God, as well as both polarities converge in ever increasing joy within you. Now just drop a grounding cord deep into the earth so there's no lack of spirit within your physical body and within the earth, connecting to that Christed orb in the middle of the earth. Reaching the fingertips of your awareness to that Christed orb, joining as one with all on the planet. Now receiving the healing of Mother Earth, Mother Gaia. And as you receive that healing, you're aware in the oneness of traveling up in your consciousness as well into the higher realms of light. Here activating all of your spiritual senses in the simplicity of this moment. Simply being aware. What do I hear inwardly? What do I see inwardly? What is the merger of the inner and outer such that I am congruent with the spirit that animates all? What do I sense inwardly and outwardly? Is there a kinesthetic awareness? What's present in my body? And what is it that I can sacrifice? Are there any thoughts or pain or the past moment or judgments that I can just sacrifice now, giving up to the Spirit? And just give it up now, that it might be replaced with light, beautiful, brilliant, ever-increasing light. Connecting now to the spirit of Paris. Let's all be Parisian for a moment. And that beauty and that ancientness, connecting to the brilliant, ever opening culture of love that teaches us in the challenging moments and in the easy moments. And be aware now and even affirm that you can be in a beautiful, harmonious, easy flow with life. But you just give up the idea that struggle is spiritual. And be in the field of grace that is ever opening its arms to you. And lastly, what is it you know? Aware of all your guides present with you. Is there a message from Spirit for you now? Receive that message. Open, breathe in that message. And as you breathe in that message, you breathe in all the love of the Spirit, which is, of course, the beauty that all the senses, inner and outer, lead us to. And that love now is ever increasing, amplifying, flowing through you and as you. And you just affirm now. I am the presence of love. I am love. I am light. I am whole. I am spirit. Amen. My pleasure. So there are a few ways to participate with Sonia. Read life accurately. How to recognize and respond to what's really happening is everywhere. Amazon at soniachoquette.net, SoniaChoquette.net. Lots of ways to participate with Sonia. Easy to find her on Instagram. Her YouTube channel, your YouTube channel is to die for. It's amazing. The best videos ever. Easy to find to Sonia Choquette. And so tell us, how can we
I would say maybe the easiest would be to, if you want to pick up one of my books, the first one, even before Read Life Accurately, is Trust Your Vibes. Just, or if you want to work with your guides, ask your guides. And Read Life Accurately is how to flow in the world. So those are there. And if you want to learn more, I'd say come to YouTube. That's easy. From there, you'll find your way, or Instagram. But I believe these are where I am. Trust your vibes to where you want to show up.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yes. And yeah, truly another plug for her YouTube is really just exquisite. It's all these like mini lessons there's also many lessons. And it's very easy to search and just go, I want to know how to trust my vibes, or I want to know how to jumpstart my intuition. That's another book, by the way. Last book, right?
Yep.
21 Days to Jumpstart Your Intuition.
And the thing is this, my message is simple. You've got this. I just wanted to flip on all the switches so you are working with your full repertoire of divine skills and divine tools. And from that, once that's all going, you will naturally discover that you can, in fact, trust yourself and create a beautiful life very quickly.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So do go check out soniachoquette.net. My book, Your Angelic Ancestry, Discover Your Archangelic Name, Heritage, and Higher Purpose is on sale now.
Hooray!
Yes.
And you really do need to have your support system immediately. So do get that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So that's on Amazon, easy to search for. Just search Your Angelic Ancestry on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. I have lots of free gifts on my website, aliciadoss.com. So do go there for an angelic toolkit, lots of tutorial videos, lots of free goodies. So do join us next week. I have an angelic Q&A. You can ask me anything about angels or anything else for that matter. And then joining the following week will be Asha Frost, a mutual friend and Hay House author. And then Neil Donald Walsh, the author of Conversations with God, who's coming up on 30 years since he published that book and has a new book called God Talks. So thank you so much for joining us. Do go find Sonia. She's easy to find. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for your generosity to let me share all of this with your beautiful audience. Thank you.
It's so our pleasure. Thank you so much for joining. And until we meet again, live your love.